Nintendo suing a streamer for allegedly streaming leaked copies of Switch games over 50 times. Nintendo claims that they took down his streams multiple times, but he was defiant. The company seeking $150,000 per violation. So if we just assume that he streamed 50 different titles, there was 50 different incidences. My trusty calculator here says that this big number times 50, they're suing him for $7.5 million. But yeah, look, I totally get that Nintendo is common enemy number one. I totally understand that people hate on Nintendo. You know, everybody knows that. My most recent video, which is me just saying, hey, I understand why Nintendo sends lawsuits. I kind of understand why the villain is the villain. The like to dislike ratio on that video is just atrocious, man. But yeah, the guy who was actually doing all of this, the guy who was just taunting Nintendo, went by the name of EveryGameGuru. His timeline's been cleansed from Twitter X, so I'm assuming it's for legal purposes. He's been banned off Kick. And well, I was going over the official court documents. It says Nintendo of America Incorporated, plaintiff versus Jesse, that name again, I can't pronounce. Starting in as early as 2022, defendant had streamed unauthorized gameplay of at least 10 of Nintendo's leaked games before their publication, and more than 50 times in total. Nintendo has submitted dozens of takedown notices pursuant of section this number of the Copyright Act to have that guy's name, unlawful streams removed. And recently, multiple platforms such as YouTube, Twitch, shut down his channels because of the copyright strikes. Despite these immense efforts by Nintendo to enforce its rights short of litigation, defendant continues to unlawfully stream Nintendo's copyrighted works and thumb his nose at Nintendo and the law. On October 24th, 2024, after certain platform had taken down his unlawful streams as a result of Nintendo's enforcement actions, he sent Nintendo a letter boasting that he has 1,000 burner channels to stream from, and he can do this all day. That's where you messed up, my friend. That's where you messed up. You poked the sleeping bear. I mean, not to say that Nintendo was sleeping. You know, Nintendo's been actually very active lately with all the lawsuits happening, you know, with like the Pal World, Ryu Jinx. When Nintendo's being the most litigious, the last thing you want to do is just poke the active bear. Poke the very angry bear. This is the email that he would send to Nintendo, right? It says, encouraging his viewers, blah, 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 blah. I have thousands of burner channels. We can do this all day. If I was a Nintendo employee and I'm just trying to finish my workday, I just want to clock out. I see someone send me this email, it's gonna like reinvigorate a fire inside of me. I'm gonna be like, oh, it's on. Oh, whoa, I was about to clock out. Now I'm invested. Nintendo be suing for the most random shit. It's not random, though. It's not random. EveryGameGuru was caught streaming games that had not been released yet. If he was streaming random emulated stuff, I'd be like, bro, it's emulation, whatever. But the fact that he was streaming unreleased games and showing gameplay footage of them and potentially messing up promotions and marketing and all that stuff, in this case, I totally understand. I don't really care if you pirate games, emulate all you want, pirate all you want, do whatever you want, but just don't be stupid. Don't do it in front of everybody for everybody to see. You know it's wrong, you know it's illegal, and yet you're still doing it in front of everybody. That's just something that you do in the privacy of your home, in the comfort of the offline space outside of just like live streaming platforms, right? As long as you do that, you should be good. But you know, when you're doing this and you're just basically laughing at Nintendo's face going like, oh, I can just keep making more accounts, you're kind of just asking for it at that point. Now, something I noticed that I saw online recently, not only was this happening and he's getting a lawsuit, you guys remember Ryu Jinx that Nintendo shut down a couple of months ago? 2 months ago? Yeah, apparently Nintendo's now the owner of Ryu Jinx. You guys remember that Ryu Jinx was a Nintendo Switch emulator that was being hosted in Brazil, I think it was, or something? And the Nintendo FBI agents actually showed up to the guy's house and gave him an offer that he could not refuse. And I guess, you know, Nintendo just took control of Ryu Jinx, because now if you go to Who Is Identity by Everyone, this is where you can actually kind of just go to like any website and see who owns that website. RyuJinx.org is currently owned by Nintendo of America. So I find that really interesting. I find that really, really interesting. Nintendo Mafia is crazy. It really is. Like, emulators per se, there's no problem with them. Everybody knows this. Emulation, I think, is a really important part of game preservation, so that way we can have a future in which we can actually still own our games, even when everyone's trying to make gaming as a service be a thing. But the reality of the situation is that most people who emulate also pirate. You know, there's not that many people who actually take their physical Nintendo Switch, dump the games into their PC to be able to play them. A large majority of people plainly just download the ROMs off a website and call it a day. That's just a reality of the situation. You don't have to compete with people if you eliminate the competition. And that's what Nintendo's doing. They're like, we don't know how to deal with piracy. We can't take down the emulators because technically it's not illegal, but we can just buy the emulators outright. And that's exactly what Nintendo's been doing. That's what's happening with Ryujinx. I think Yuzu also went through the same fate. This is in response to Nintendo's now the owner of Ryujinx. This comment says, the website seems to be down for now. Tried multiple proxies. Anyone who downloads the installer from a direct link on the website, if it comes back online, you're probably downloading a software that Nintendo can use to track what games you play through it and sue you for playing them. There's an official GitHub page for the legacy installers, which you can use if you need an older/safer build. Now that Nintendo's the owner of Ryujinx, if Ryujinx does end up showing back and, just coming back online, I wouldn't trust it. I don't think anybody should download it. They should just consider this dead in the water, go download a different emulator. The main problem with Nintendo, I guess the main problem that Nintendo has, is that Nintendo's trying to stop emulation for the Nintendo Switch, because from what I hear, the Nintendo Switch 2 is going to be backwards compatible with the Nintendo Switch. Technically, if you have a fully functional Nintendo Switch emulator, it's going to be very easy to emulate Switch 2 games. So they just want to curb that right in the spot. They don't want to have to deal with early piracy with their new generation console, new generation video games, because the matter is that they only have an issue with the Nintendo Switch emulators. But like Dolphin, which is the GameCube emulator, they don't really have a problem with that. The only problem that they had was that they were shutting down the ability to have a native Dolphin app on the Steam Deck. But apart from that, you can download Dolphin right now. You can go to some shady website and download X games. I don't encourage it. You guys know what happens when you say that you encourage piracy on the internet. Now, the last thing I want to talk about, that whole Nintendo Switch and emulation thing that I saw that was really interesting, is that in a new Nintendo lawsuit, they can now claim that they can sue people just for playing Switch games on an emulator. Doesn't matter where you got them, if you're playing Switch games on an emulator, they can technically sue you. Now it says here, Nintendo's technological measures effectively control access to works protected by the Copyright Act. The defendant, at minimum, loaded unauthorized copies of games into Ryujinx, Yuzu, or another emulator and streamed them. Each of those steps requires circumvention of one or more of the technological measures. So what Nintendo's arguing here is that, yes, emulation is legal, but their way of encrypting their video games has gotten so good that in order for you to crack said game and turn it into a ROM file, you're breaking their copyright protections, and technically that's illegal. That's what they're saying. I'm not the lawyer, man. I don't know. Linking to Switch emulators is also illegal, according to Nintendo, and they can sue you for that, according to Nintendo. You sending someone a link to an emulator is trafficking. I don't know if that's true. This is all what Nintendo's saying. I don't know if this is true at the end of the day. Nintendo can write anything on paper. They can just be like, hey, we say that this is illegal on a piece of paper, but at the end of the day, it's up to the court for them to decide, hey, that really is illegal, So yeah, Nintendo can say that playing a Switch game on an emulator is illegal. They can say that sending a link to a ROM site is illegal. They can say a bunch of things, but at the end of the day, it's the court that decides. Their reasoning for wanting to sue people who are playing emulation really is, at the end of the day, just for protection against their latest releases. They know that they've been getting a lot of leaks recently, and they're very upset about that, and they just don't want to lose the money. This is going to get Nintendo a crap ton of backlash. Yeah, they're already getting so much hate. Like, they've been on a track record recently with the Palworld lawsuit, with shutting down Ryujinx, or I guess buying out Ryujinx outright, and now for wanting to sue people simply for the act of emulating games. Now, that's up for the judge to decide. We'll have to see how this goes. I don't really know. But that's just the reality of the situation. What do you guys think?